Hi everyone, welcome to this virtual event. I'm Yulan Yuan and super excited to meet intelligence and leader of event management here. Internet has just celebrated its 50th birthday. From school lessons and office work to physical exercise, travel planning, and shopping, more aspects of people's daily social and professional lives are moving online as a result of a COVID-19 pandemic. Internet service have been rise in usage from 40% to 100% compared to the pre-lockdown level. More than ever, we need the internet and eager to know how we can use it to leverage our work. Today's speaker, she is known for her work in human technology interaction with an emphasis on electronic decision aids, social media marketing, smart technology, and the technology adoption. The keynote is a senior research fellow at USC, a fellow of the International Academic for the Study of Tourism, and a long-term member of former board member of IFITT. She will share her insight on smart destination under the shadow of COVID-19 to help us survive through this pandemic era. With the pleasure, I present Professor Ulrike Gretzel to you.
Thank you so much. Well, I would like to say a thank you for actually having me, inviting me to this event and giving a talk to you. And I am going to give a brief introduction to smart tourism, just to give an overview, and then I'm going to specifically talk about the pandemic and what it means for smart tourism, and then I will talk about the specific ways in which I think smart tourism will have to move forward in order to help with the tourism recovery. So what do we actually mean by smart tourism? Smart tourism is about integrating the physical layer at a destination with a technological layer. So that means the application of smart technologies, the creation of a technological infrastructure from which then data can be derived. And this data feeds into the governance of the destination. It also helps businesses at the destination create value propositions. And ultimately, it creates a superior, enhanced, technology-mediated experience for the tourist. And at that experience layer, there's additional technology used by the consumer. And so data then is created again and feeds back into the business layer and the governance layer. So, smart tourism then is really about building a smart tourism ecosystem at the destination where data is kind of the food, right? And there's a multitude of players that are then engaged in this value creation space using that data and creating new kinds of experiences, new kinds of business ventures, and new kinds of partnerships between government institutions, industry, and consumers. Now, a smart destination then becomes a space that is infiltrated with innovation, right? It's also important that it becomes inclusive. It's accessible for all. It is established on that cutting-edge technology infrastructure, but it also has in mind sustainable development, and it facilitates the interaction of the visitor with the physical environment, but it also has the quality of life of the residents in mind. So the definition that I just presented to you actually is one that comes from the industry. Segitur is the Spanish government tourism organization that has been really successful in developing and promoting smart destination concepts in Spain and beyond. So what does this then mean for destination governance? What is a smart DMO in this context? And from my perspective, it means that it's really moving away from just purely a marketing organization and becoming more of a management player. It also really sits in the middle between government and industry, and between industry and consumers. So I think a smart DMO needs to lobby and maybe even partly sponsor the development of that infrastructure. It needs to curate and manage smart tourism data. It needs to facilitate the development and uptake of relevant applications within this digital business ecosystem. And it needs to support tourists in learning about and consuming these smart tourism experiences. And finally, it also needs to make sure that everything that is happening at the destination is linked to quality of life and sustainability goals. So I'm not going to go into details here, but I think the functions of a smart DMO are about mobilizing the stakeholders, right? Matchmaking so that new partnerships can be formed, managing data, managing interactions, managing the infrastructure, but also sensing, monitoring what's going on at the destination, actively using this data, as well as shape-shifting, so becoming multiple things, right? Becoming very agile in terms of what a DMO needs to do, and in some instances becoming more of a governance player, and in others more of an innovation kind of promoter. But then ultimately, all of this leads to stewardship. So this is really important for smart tourism development, that we have that big well-being and sustainability goal at the end. So how has COVID really challenged all of this, right? Smart tourism was well underway. A lot of investments were made in smart tourism infrastructure. But with the pandemic, we saw a total collapse of international tourism. On the other hand, in some places at least, there were not just maintenance of domestic tourism, but maybe even growth in domestic tourism, and the emergence of different kinds of tourism. So for example, in the United States, we saw a movement towards the visitation of national parks again, and van life, so people traveling in smaller vans around the country. What we have also seen is an urban exodus, so people are fleeing the big cities because this is where the COVID hotspots were. They also don't have to work in their actual workplaces anymore, so working from anywhere, right, means that they were finally able to maybe move to their dream home in the country. Now, smart tourism is a very urban kind of initiative at the moment, and it hasn't really made that move into more regional or rural kinds of destinations. So this has really become a challenge for smart tourism development. There's also a drop in the use of public infrastructure because of COVID. So people don't like taking the bus or subway. And smart tourism is about creating new kinds of mobilities. And so this is a big issue in terms of smart tourism development. There are also multiple pressure points now for governments in terms of needing to invest in healthcare, not being able to fund anything else, dealing with problems in the schools. So tourism, unfortunately, even though it has become a big problem, tourism is not necessarily the main worry for some of these governments. We also have a general lack of workforce now because of the pandemic, and that really affects the hospitality industry and tourism overall. So it also affects the development of technological infrastructure, right? So skilled labor is missing because we don't have migrants coming in as much as we used to. There's also supply chain issues, and for smart tourism, one of the biggest ones is the chip issue. So chip manufacturing and delivery is really behind, and it's affecting the automotive industry, but it's also affecting anything that is about creating a digital infrastructure. There's also a real danger that tourism now is being scaled back despite this pent-up travel demand that will for sure realize once the pandemic is over. So here's a recent study on US adults, asking them how excited they actually are about taking a vacation after the pandemic. And you see here that especially high income, highly educated people are very, very much in need of a vacation and very eager to travel again. So in Europe, we saw it a little bit already, where as soon as the lockdowns ended, we immediately went back to a situation of over-tourism. So from under-tourism during the pandemic, a complete change again to over-tourism and back to the extremely difficult problems that creates at destinations. The good thing about the pandemic for smart destinations is that there was a push towards digital tourism and digital services. So now even smaller providers are realizing that they have to engage with technology. And also a lot of consumers became really used to engaging with technology. So whether it's virtual experiences on Airbnb or QR codes instead of menus, or just getting used to using mobile apps to actually being tracked, this is really a positive influence on smart tourism. Now, smart tourism in general, I think, is really an opportunity to help recover destinations from the pandemic, because it is all about creating technological solutions to pandemic-related problems. So whether it's the cleaning, the tracing, the monitoring, the contactless service, this is what smart tourism is about. It also places an emphasis on connectivity. And I think in the pandemic, it became very obvious that we have to invest in connectivity. So that is, the layer on which smart tourism is building. But there's also an opportunity to rethink technology use and how it can serve emerging tourism agendas. So if we think about rethinking tourism, it also means rethinking technology and how it's used and implemented. Now, smart tourism provides this concrete pathway to sustainability, because sustainability is the ultimate goal of smart development. So that includes a mitigation of over-tourism. But smart tourism also thinks about good destination governance, right? And so the ethics and the justice issues that we see in some of the destinations are directly addressed by smart tourism. Ultimately, what this crisis has taught us is that we need more resilient destinations, and smart tourism can help with that as well, because it equips destinations with data, with monitoring skills, and with flexibility. And overall, I think it really strengthens the role of DMOs, and we need strong DMOs now after the pandemic because we need holistic destination management. Now, smart tourism sometimes is really focused on just creating technology, but I would like to really emphasize that it is a process and it needs input. It needs assets at the destination. It also needs drivers, and technology is one driver, but there's also policy, and then there's community. It is built on participatory governance. And it should have specific desired outcomes in mind. So whether that is innovation, well-being, sustainability, or more just governance, really the process should be about reaching these outcomes. And then once these outcomes are reached, they create inputs again, so the feedback loop is closed. Now, what has become even more important during the pandemic is really thinking about maybe moving away from seeing tourism as an isolated part of a destination and really integrating smart destination and smart city efforts. So instead of thinking about tourists separately from residents, we need to connect these efforts. We need to really think about how smart destinations can benefit from some of the infrastructure that is being put in place, but then also how residents can take advantage of some of the touristic experiences we are creating in a smart destination. So from my perspective, a smart tourism city then combines the two elements of a smart city and a smart destination in order to be a more holistic, well-being oriented place or space where there's convergence of efforts, where there's synergy, where there's liquidity and more of a fluid consumption time frame, where it's not just about thinking about tourists who come into a place and use infrastructure or applications just for a short term, but where we think about really the benefits of the smart tourism infrastructure for everyone in this space. So what we need really is to think about smart tourism as a way of thinking about the future. And smart tourism for me is in essence a utopian vision of the future of tourism. And it really moves us away from the techtopias that prevail in much of the literature as well as in practice. Unfortunately, these technology-focused visions of tourism fail to truly mobilize communities and tourism stakeholders to work together and create that alternative future. So we need something else. And that something else, I think, is a smart tourism mindset. So it's really a collective mindset that allows us to come together to envision that future of tourism at the destination. A mindset is a frame of mind, a way of thinking, a set of assumptions, and it critically influences everything we do. It shapes how we interpret things. And for smart tourism development, we need a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. So it's a mindset that really focuses on a sense of purpose, but also on learning and on reflecting. And it's a mindset that I think will lead to success and resilience because of these characteristics. Now, a smart tourism mindset needs to be guided by values. And so a smart tourism agenda cannot be value-free. And it needs to also make these values explicit so that everyone in that smart tourism ecosystem can buy into them. And they need to be communicated well. And I think the DMO plays a critical role in that. A smart tourism mindset is also creativity focused. So because we need to continuously envision that future, We need to understand the importance of play and experimentation in this ecosystem. It also has to be a change mindset, and this is the most difficult one, I think, in tourism. It needs to be all about agility, and it needs to really build capacity to change into the tourism industry, because we need the ability to anticipate as well as shape technological change in ways that really benefit the smart destination. So to sum this up, I think COVID-19 brings challenges to smart tourism development, but I think it brings even more opportunities to the table. I think the only way, though, that we can realize smart destinations is that we need to move away from this isolationist perspective, and we need to combine smart tourism city concepts into our thinking, right? So combining smart cities and smart destinations into this broader smart development effort. It also means that we need to adopt a smart tourism mindset that ensures a long-term perspective, system-level change, and continuous innovation and evolution. So for me, ultimately, smart tourism development during and post the pandemic means the creation, the promotion, and the implementation of the smart tourism mindset. And I think you all, as industry players, have a very important role to play in this. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity. And here's my email. So if you have any questions, unfortunately, I will not be present at the talk, but please reach out and I'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Uli. And I will be present, and so I will take a talk. I will take a question from the audience for Uli. So please remember the email, and so remember your questions, so I can take the questions and collect them, email back to Professor Ulrike Gretzel. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.